Hey, good morning, artists. I hope you're having a great one. Today's video is going to cover a couple of things you've probably been wondering about when you're drawing your ultimate city. How do I deal with logos on the sides of buildings? And how do I deal with things that are three-dimensional but not cubic? And are you ready for it? Because I'm about to change your entire life. I'm going to blow your mind. Drum roll, please. Okay, good drum roll. You can put stuff in boxes. Let me show you how. All right, so time has not been on my side this morning, but you can see that I quickly drew a small bit of Mr. C. Chesterton Field Landville for you here. We have the very corner of our street corner represented by a McDonald's, okay, because everybody loves McDonald's, right? So, and even if you don't, this is an example of anything you could do that needs a logo. So here we are. Our McDonald's is very important in my city, and you'll see why it looks like that in just a second here. Here's our quick McDonald's logo that I drew for you. I kind of planned it out over here, and here's the reason why. Guys, when you are needing to get a logo to stick to the side of a building here, the best way to figure that out that I have found is to use something like we used on our other paintings and drawings so far, the grid transfer, okay? But we're going to use a special trick with the grid transfer. We're going to use something called foreshortening. It's like when my mom was baking cookies and she sent me out to the store foreshortening. It's a key ingredient when we're using perspective. We got to make things that are closer a little bit bigger than things that are far away. So foreshortening on a grid transfer goes like this. First, we have to make the grid over the logo that we drew. So I drew a 2-inch by 2-inch box around this little Mackie D's logo here. And what I'm going to do is just mark off the middle inch here. Okay, remember grid transfers work great when we have just the same number of units on both surfaces. Okay, so that's what we have to get. That's the key. Okay, and you know what? I'm thinking we need 4 units each way, so I'm going to mark the 1/2 inch. Okay, you can kind of see that if I took only 4 units total, we just wouldn't have as detailed a guide as we might need to get this logo transferred. Okay. So I'm marking all my edges so I can play a really smooth game of connect the dot in just a second here. And have everything line up nice and neat. Okay. Connect the dot. Connect the dot, connect the dot, connect the dot. Boy, you can see my ruler skills are not their best today, but I'm going to go with my best attempt to get the middle between them, and you can see it still works out pretty okay. All right, the next thing that I want to do is move over to the side of my building. Okay. And what we're going to do is just recreate that grid. But this time, I'm going to start with what I know over on the edge that I know. We'll think of this as like 0 here. We'll think of this as the point where everything is just as it normally would be. Okay. This nearest point. And so my first line is going to be a vertical that is that original 2 inches. Okay. Boom. Okay. Now I got to try to recreate this grid, but do it foreshortened. This is going to be tricky. So hang in there. Okay. Here's an orthogonal to just inside the outer edge there. Okay. And an orthogonal here same distance, but we are headed to the vanishing point. You guys see that? So that it sticks to the side of the building. Okay. So now I am going to close it off with one more vertical. I'm not concerned with how tall or short this vertical, only connecting the orthogonals, and that makes it correct in perspective. Okay, now how to divvy this up. This is where foreshortening really comes into play. Because what I need to figure out is how to get 4 even spaces, but squished as they go back. So in our weird imaginary land that we're working in right now, we're thinking they start off even and then they squish as they go back in space, back toward this edge here. So first, what I probably want to do is I want to set the halfway point just a little bit off of half, if that makes sense. Okay, so there's my halfway point. Okay, let's create a vertical there. Boom. Okay. Then I'm going to divvy it up again into quarters. So I want to think just a little bit off of half of what's left here. Okay. With less space over here and more space over here. Okay, cool. Now, so this next quarter needs to be just a little bit smaller. So I'm going to make that happen. Boom. Now, if you end up with too much over here, there's a way to make it match back up. So don't fret. The way is get rid of some. Okay. Very cool. Now, for the rest of this, to divide it up vertically, that's pretty easy. We're just going to use orthogonals. Okay. And we're going to use the actual distance we had before. Okay. So that's 1 inch here, ½ inch here, and ½ inch here. Okay. Here we go. Orthogonals from there to the vanishing point. Boom. Boom. Okay, I now have a grid that I can use to transfer this McDonald's. And when I do, what I have to, this McDonald's right here, and what I have to do is think only what's in this square at a time, and then this square at a time, and then this square, and so forth. Okay, so I can't get caught up in drawing the whole thing. If I do, it's not going to work. Okay, but here's what magically happens as I go along and do this. So here's that square, bing. Okay, and here is this square, bing, and this square. Oh, don't make it more than it is, Mr. C. And this square right here. So, okay, so I've really got to be sharp here. This is where it really starts to distort because of the perspective. And that happens automatically if I am paying close attention to where things land in the square. That's what's so cool about this. Okay, here's this square right here. And, oh, yeah, I'm making that way bigger than it should be. Okay, there we go. And crossing down into this square here. Gonna have to correct that with a little eraser here. Okay, crossing down into this square here. Okay, and you can see with a little bit more TV magic, we've got that looking just about like it should, sort of pasted to the side of the building. That is so cool, and it happens automatically if you make sure every square you copy, you're paying attention to the lines and where things match up. The toughest part at the end is just going to be really carefully, almost surgically removing all of those guidelines with an eraser. Okay, so I'm not going to spend a whole ton of your time showing you that. But here's what we need to address last. And this is what I was talking about really when I said you can put stuff in boxes. We're going to talk about 3D stuff that is non-cubic. Okay, so I have here a box prepared to put a park bench in. And then this McDonald's is very, very important to its community. So we're going to give it a dome on top and a steeple on top of that. Okay, so let's start with the dome. That's pretty simple. I am thinking ellipses, but I am thinking ellipses in perspective. An ellipse is a fancy art word for a circle or oval. Okay, and that can kind of create some ribs, some rib structure to think of for my dome. So if I just kind of lightly draw those and I stack those up, and I'm thinking within this box, okay? And I think of this as like almost a pole, like a tent pole that has strings, and it's holding one corner of each ellipse as I draw it, okay? And as ellipses move up away from our eye level, they sort of expand and they're going to turn, okay? As they get closer to eye level, they're going to crunch. So really this ellipse here should be the thinnest. Now that sounds weird. And then this should get a little wider. And then this one should get a little wider. And then this one even wider than that. So we end up with something like a beehive. And when we connect that, you almost have the shading right there for the dome too. So that's cool. Okay. If I wanted to finish the shading, I could add some highlight back in with my eraser. I'm definitely going to get rid of this extra guideline here when I'm all done. And you can see that turns out kind of nice. We have a very well-respected McDonald's 6-piece nugget with Szechuan sauce. Okay. And if I wanted to draw something like a steeple from there, I've got my starting point. So might look something like that. Okay. Cool. So there's the Mackie D's. If I want a park bench across the street from it, I'm going to think of the side of the bench first. Okay, and that's what I'm placing on the side of this box. Okay, so here is, you know, those old school iron park benches with the wood slats forming the seat. Okay, that's what I'm thinking of here. I'm thinking of the iron part, the side. Okay. See what I mean? That's the side of it. Okay. Now to do a really good connect the dot, I need to draw the side on the other side. Okay. So starting right here, that's the back corner. All right, and I've got to think of more of this box, I just realized, because I need to figure out where the bottom corner is. So we're going to think of this box as what it is. It's see-through, translucent. And you can look at your videos in two-point perspective that kind of teach you how to deal with that. The extra sides of the box that you wouldn't see if the box were opaque. I'm going to figure those out really quick. There we go. So that I know where bottom is on this other side. Okay? You'll see why that's important in just 2 seconds here. Okay, so now that I know where the ends are really supposed to be, I could see right away I had a correction to do right here. Okay. This is kind of like almost exactly what we did with the McDonald's logo again. I got to pay real close attention to where things are in the square. Over here, then over here. Okay, and then the foreshortening, if we pay enough attention, the foreshortening takes care of itself. That's what's so cool. Okay, so now I have the bench. We're going to see this little slat. We're going to see this little slat. Okay, we're going to see the back of the bench. Okay, and we won't even see this guy when it's facing this way. If it were facing this way over here, and we saw the front of the bench, or if it were on this side of the street, then we would see this guy over here, see some of that shape, okay? But it's going to be covered to about here. Just get that to replace. Okay, and then this is where it goes underneath. We got some space under it. And there's the front of the bench right there. Okay, all this becomes extra. That was a guideline to help us out. That was the box that we put it in, right? Okay, guys, I hope that all of this has been clear as mud for you. If it hasn't, if you run into problems, let me know in the comments or send me an email and I will try to help you out. Have an awesome day.